Hold it down, hold it down. We're just going to give you an idea of a new show, and it's called On the Blurb. It's called On the Blurb. Weber on the Blurb, at any rate. It's just going to be a podcast of about, I don't know, just a bunch of peccadillos, things that might have happened, gone wrong here and there. Nothing major where we find fault, and you get your knickers in a twist and everybody gets angry and stuff. It's just, look at your life, look at my life, see if they combine some way or another. And we'll see if we can find some points of reasoning and things of that sort. And every once in a while, I'll bring up, because I worked in television for 25 years and on radio for 5 years. And so there's a lot of young people who will be trying to get into the television or the media business and so on. And I really think you need to know what I've learned and others have learned in that medium, if you will, over the years. It's not the nicest of places to be unless you have, I don't know, you're wearing a set of armor that can take anything, because you're going to have to compromise your convictions, compromise maybe what you think is right, compromise your integrity, compromise your body, compromise a whole bunch of things. So you better think twice if you want to get into television, and you better have a thick skin, because up at this level, they don't care. And how the whole thing works is this: you work for a media station, a television station, radio station, whatever, and you've got general managers who are responsible, once again, for the immediate areas and things of that sort. And then you've got corporations who own those different radio, television stations in different markets. But then you go even higher and you have the monopolies that own those corporations. And they're the ones that they want you, over the period of time, obviously, to make you think the way they want you to think and to eventually live the way they want you to live. It's a total control of your life, almost in a communistic fashion, if you will. It rolls downhill, and they want to set precedent and so on, and you will follow or you won't find a job at any level, so from the monopoly down to the corporation, down to the general managers of stations and stuff, and then you people who were on the air behind the scenes and things of that sort. There are things that go on. So I have 25, 30 years in both these, so I'm going to share with you a lot of those things and see if you still want to get into this business, because there's stories you just wouldn't believe. So over the period of time during the podcast, and it's called On the Blurb, which is a 10, 15 second remarks, attitude, something you want to say, gets right to the point, and it's called On the Blurb. And if you would like to send in suggestions or get on the blurb, the email is weber@ontheblurb.com. That's weber@ontheblurb.com. Okay? And so we'll be continuing this, because there's always something to talk about. Goodness gracious sakes. But I'll incorporate some of the television things and different things that happen along my way that could very well happen to you. And I'll mention some of those maybe each show. But then we'll go into so many other things that we could talk about in this day and age. Whether it's sexism, racism, no anger. We'll just try and put an even flow on things, and let's use a little common sense and think. And what happened to you as you were growing up, different things that happened to me, things that I did, little tricks that we pulled on, and so on and so forth, jokes, things like that. But at any rate, that's what the show will be about, and it'll interface with y'all. So, we'll get it going, and it's going to be upcoming shortly. All right, we're fine-tuning it and working it out and things of that sort. But I'll talk about some television. There's things that I'll talk about. When I was on radio, I was going to lose the use of my legs and be in a wheelchair for a while, if not forever. And the guy I was working for, the man that owned the station, said, "Don't worry about a thing. You come to work in a wheelchair." Which I thought, geez, thanks, man. You saved my life. 3 days before my surgery, he walks into the studio and he says, "I'm going to have to fire you. I want you to be checked." I was kidding. He wasn't kidding. We lost the house. We lost everything. Every single thing we lost. And I had kids. He didn't care. And come to find out, he had a girlfriend working at the station, although he was married and had 2 kids at home. And the girlfriend said, I went in to get a check, and she came up to me and she said, I said, I hear you've been trying to get me fired. And she said, yeah, for the whole last year. She said, now maybe Bobby and I can get married. He always used the excuse he didn't have enough money or something like that. And so she'd been trying to get me fired for a year. And you know what? I had the top ratings in the eastern part of the state. Yeah, DJ, afternoon, loved it during the 70s. That's cool. Anyways, that was just radio. And then jobs in television. I work with a news anchor who he liked the drug thing, and he liked to go to career day at high schools, so he could kind of influence or pick up those good-looking senior girls. Yeah. And then there was a guy that did weather that I knew in early television times that he liked to go to the schools for career day too, but he wanted to pick up young boys, young men, and get to know them better and stuff. There's so many stories like that. Then I had a news director down in Florida. This guy was named Polachuk or something. We were starting a station down in West Palm Beach, and Potamkin's up in Philadelphia, who had a car dealership. They owned the station, the rights to it, and so those were the builders. And they gave this news director carte blanche at whoever he wants to bring into the station. Well, the one thing they disagreed with in him was they wanted me to come on as the weatherman, meteorologist, and he hated me for that. He hated that he did not have the decision for that. So the whole time I was there, he tried to get me fired, made up stories about me, did all kinds of things. I brought my daughter in for Father-Daughter's Day or something like that. He's running through the studio just effing this and effing that and effing this. Whoa, 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 stop. You don't do that in front of my 10-year-old daughter. What's the matter with you? So he's the kind that would get angry. He was an alkie. He was an alcoholic. He threw things. He threw ashtrays at walls and put holes in them and stuff. And then he went out fishing, I guess, one time and fell off. He's drunk and fell off the top part of the boat, landed down. I think he broke both his legs. He looked like a guy in the cast, walking around like this. And he came back into work, and you could hear him coming on crutches because you kind of sweep across the floor and stuff. And he comes in with a police officer to the station and escorts me out. But he fires me. He fires me and he did the police officer because I was going to hurt him. That's what he said. This is another, nutcase. Eventually, I think he went as a news director to New Orleans. I think he's working in New Orleans now. And then let me see. These are the stories I'll talk about. And then you ever watch the Weather Channel? Yeah, it's in Atlanta, and I helped start that. I helped start the Weather Channel. Bunch of great guys, very scientific guys, very mindful guys, very dedicated, people, and they really knew their stuff. They're some of the best meteorologists you could ever find, and very scientific, but yet friendly. And we had this thing, this idea to do this along with this guy named John Coleman, who did Good Morning America. Okay, but he also was the president of the Weather Channel. So the quick story is I caught him. I had the first show in the morning, like at 5:30 or something. So I went up to make copies of my show early on. And it was like 40 yards between his office and back to the Met Lab, the studio. And I had to make copies. So I went to the copy machine, and it's just 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm hearing all these noises. All these kind of things from his office, which was in the corner. I just wanted to make my copies and get out of there. I made my copies. The copy machine flapped. You know that thing? It fell and hit and made a noise, and they stopped. They stopped breathing heavy and grunting and saying what they were saying. I said, I got to get out of here. I tried to get down that hallway so fast it was ridiculous, but maybe halfway down, I heard his door open, turn on. I turned around, and his head peeked out. He knew it was me. Now he knew his career or whatever, or something might be in jeopardy. But he made my life miserable. He really made my life miserable. Put me on overnights, wanted me to quit. I don't quit. I was Marine Corps. I don't quit. I don't know how not to try. But anyways, so he did. He made up stories about me. He lied about me. He tried to get me to quit. He made false accusations to the whole corporation and stuff about me. And my last, I finally, they said you gotta leave and so on. But as I left that Met Lab, the meteorological lab is one. The guys all stood up and clapped for me. They knew I did what I did that was the best, that I tried and everything. We were a family there and stuff. Then John Coleman had to go and ruin it all. But they clapped for me and said they'd miss me. And those guys mean the world to me to this day. And that happened back in like 83 maybe? I'm pretty sure. But anyways, so he was nasty to me. And then I'm walking out that day and I go by the receptionist at 9 o'clock in the morning. I said, well, see you later. Have a good day. She says, oh, just another day of opening mail about Craig Weber. I said, what are you talking about? She said, 10, 11 letters come in every day from across the country. But I said, what happens to him? She said, other letters go into John's office. For a year, he'd been keeping my mail. I mean, this was outrageous that you wanted to... See, people get to this level and they think they can just dump on everybody down at this level and you will do what they want or you won't have a job. Or you can't face your responsibility. You won't be able to function. So It's kind of a kiss butt from the first time you get started, and that's just not right if you want to get in this business. And then let me see what else. That's just one story. I'll expand upon that later on down the road. Oh, in Houston, I go to Houston, and I couldn't believe this. The first time I really saw racism in action. The general manager there was, what was his name? Terry Ford was his name. And I worked there for KHOU TV. And they took the four of us up there, the anchor, the sports anchor, the weather anchor, and both the anchors. And this guy looked at us and said, I do not want you all hanging out together outside, how you present yourself. Because the news anchor was a minority named Felicia Cheater. Loved her to death. She was fantastic. But in front of us, we couldn't. And he didn't want us hanging around with people that work behind the cameras and stuff, because a lot of them were Hispanic. They were of a different nationality. But he just blatantly said these things. It wasn't right to do that. That's insulting. And to think you can get away with it. You know, this whole thing, a la Epstein, a la Weinstein and stuff. There's more stories than you can imagine, folks, that really do happen and really do go on. So I'm going to throw those on there. Anyways, I was voted best TV weatherman in Houston by the Houston Post, Houston Chronicle, and also best weatherman in an ideal newscast. Okay? So that was in the paper. The next morning, they take me in the office and they said, we're letting you go. We're making a change. I said, wait a minute. Have you not read the paper this morning? No, why? I said, well, you're just firing the best. Oh, they thought they could get instant ratings by hiring Neil Frank from the Miami Hurricane Center. Thought they get instant ratings at the station, at the CBS station. You got to be out of your mind. For God's sake, why are you doing it? But they did. They fired me. And because I was the best TV weatherman in Houston, as the paper said, they had to come up with a reason on why they were firing me. So this general manager, Terry Ford, made up all these kind of things, made other people make up all these kind of things and stuff that weren't true to, prospective other stations somewhere where I was throwing out resumes. This is why he got rid of me. I was hard to work and hard, stuff like that, hard to work with. No, it wasn't. No, you just got caught in your racist attitudes and everything else you wanted to do. So that was another thing. And then I'm trying to think. And also, then I went to Philadelphia. All these stories they do about sexual harassment and, discrimination, women in television, sexual advances, things like that. We did a story on it. We did a story on it one day. And I go upstairs into the newsroom, and at night, the reporter that did it is sitting in the lap of the assistant news director, and they're rubbing each other's necks and stuff. But then they'll go on television and say this and that and so on, and it's just misleading BS. And by the way, how many times have you ever seen a disabled person working on television? Working on as a news anchor, news director, news anchor, sports, weather, or whatever? You don't. They do the stories about it, but then they don't do anything about it. It's so contradictory and hypocritical. Anyways, we'll be doing a bunch of things. I'll talk more about television because there's a lot of stories. I can't go into a lot. There was a girl at the weather the Weather Channel that I was on the air with, and just before airtime, just before she let out air, it was like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. She goes, and I just went, you got to be kidding me. I almost broke up. But then we're on the air. Anyway, that's another story to be had. So we'll be talking about that. We'll talk about the stories of the day. We'll talk also about these fine magazines that they put out. This is not fake news. This is all true. We'll talk about different stories that go on in here. It's about time somebody fights back, at Hollywood for a change. And let them just blabber on and on. Anyways, it's going to be called, it is being called On the Blurb. Okay. And we'll talk about, the things that are happening at the time. And let you interface with it too. Alrighty. Anyways, have yourselves a good one. I gotta get out of here. It's time to go. Later. Weber on the Blurb.